Move fast, break things? That doesn't sound good.
Oh, really? That's the secret to success for startups in Silicon Valley.
Not so fast. Mark Zuckerberg came up with a phrase in an interview with Business Insider magazine back in 2009. He said,
Unless you are breaking stuff, you are not moving fast enough.
That's the spirit.
He himself isn't really a good example of that. Facebook wasn't a first mover, but a second mover. Friendster and MySpace had already been around for a while. Facebook came along later.
Anyway, that motto has inspired many startups.
It was also the company's official motto for years, but then came the Cambridge Analytica scandal. Afterwards, Zuckerberg apologized and promised that Facebook would place more emphasis on security in the future. Specifically, this means not rushing to implement new features.
Okay, I'll concede that Facebook has never been particularly good at rapid innovation. Zuckerberg and Meta's strength lies more in acquiring other companies, like Instagram. Nevertheless, that motto is in the DNA of startups and has led to many successes.
Like which ones?
It's about growing quickly through rapid innovation and experimentation, prioritizing speed and creative disruption.
Okay, there are some advantages for a startup in the beginning. They can gain a head start by working on technologies that are too risky for large companies, and where large companies are too slow due to their cumbersome structure. Those who are the first to work on a new technology are also the first to have access to the necessary resources. And anyway, they don't need to fear competition because they start out as the only provider. This helps them to dominate the market very quickly.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
However, the question remains, when has that actually worked?
Take Netflix, for example.
Yes, but that's not a good example. There has hardly been any technological development in the streaming market which Netflix dominates. Progress is really slow, just like the streaming market itself. When these two conditions are met, there is indeed an advantage to being a first mover. A first mover is successful when development progresses only slowly. But the motto, move fast, break things, is supposed to work best with new, disruptive technologies.
What are the downsides then?
New companies have to deal with challenges when it comes to money and technology.
Obviously, you've got limited capital. You're just getting started.
In fact, right at the beginning, they have the problem of finding investors. They present a new idea that hasn't been used anywhere yet. This requires investors to have a lot of trust in them. Many startups also fail, and investors lose their money. And even when they are successful, startups have a problem with capital.
Then you can just look for new investors.
The problem is that they have already invested a lot. First, the new technology has to be developed. They have to test it out. There's no set formula they can follow. After several attempts, they eventually find a solution. And all of that costs money. A startup also has to find a market that requires advertising. Many startups also offer their product at rock-bottom prices or even for free. This is the only way they can raise awareness for their product. But once it becomes known, they find themselves in deep debt.
That's normal, right?
Not for the second mover. They can build on the experience of the first startup, which means they can save a lot of money on development. They also don't need to invest as much to promote the product. In the beginning, the first mover still has an advantage because they have a bigger market share. But their disadvantage compared to the second mover lies in capital. That is, in profitability.
Ah, I see. The first mover has debt.
And the second mover doesn't. If he invests now, he'll get a higher return on his investment.
The first mover has the technological edge.
He has paid dearly for that as well. He put a lot of effort into developing his product, and he will try to continue developing it in the same way.
How else would you do it?
The second mover also has the advantage here too. He can take a close look at the first mover's product and consider how it could be improved. He can also develop a completely new architecture. For him, this isn't complicated since he starts from scratch. We've seen this time and again. In history, this is very difficult for the first mover.
Okay, now I'd like to see some examples of that.
I have already mentioned one, Facebook. The first movers were Friendster and MySpace. Google is also a second mover. By the time Google entered the market, search engines had already been around for years. The best known were Yahoo and Alta Vista. Alta Vista dominated the market and tried to stay ahead of the competition by making its homepage more comprehensive. The quality of the links was checked by people, which was time-consuming. And then Google came along with a really simple concept that they had adopted from universities. They ranked websites based on how often they were mentioned by other websites. Their system was simple and better. Soon, they got control of the whole market.
Yeah, those are pretty well-known examples. But there are other companies besides internet companies.
Another example is ASML, the Dutch company that makes the machines used to produce chips. Initially, these machines were made almost exclusively in Japan. The leading companies were Nikon and Canon. ASML won because it was better at integrating new technological developments right from the start. Nikon and Canon stuck to the old ways and failed. Today, ASML has a global monopoly on the production of machines for advanced chips.
Modern technologies seem to give second movers a real advantage.
It wasn't much different in the past. At first, the US car market was dominated exclusively by Ford with their Model T. Then came General Motors, which recognized that consumers wanted a wider range of choices. Soon, they dominated the US market.
Big companies often struggle to keep up with new developments.
It's not just companies. Japan and Germany were the nations that started using fax machines very early on, since they find it very difficult to do without them. Fax machines are still used in both countries today.
I had no idea they were still around. I thought they were only in museums.
Even the theory of the second mover is not new. It was first formulated in 1937 by Romein. He called it the Dialectic of Progress.
I've never heard of him.
The theory isn't intuitive enough to have gained widespread acceptance quickly. It wasn't until 1980 that Eric van der Hoeven took it up. He called it the law of the handicap in a head start. Van der Hoeven speaks of a free rider effect. The second mover benefits from the works and results of the first mover.
Jan Romein and Eric van der Hoeven are pretty much unknown. It looks like they're also victims of the first mover. So the question now is who the second mover is, and who will become known for the theory.
Of course, if there's no first mover, there can't be a second mover either. Someone always has to be first, otherwise nothing happens.
Who would want to be the first mover if they are always going to fail?
Everyone has hope at the beginning. Couldn't it be different this time?
Yeah, hope dies last.
And sometimes it can be different. If the development progresses slowly and the market for it develops slowly, it's actually an advantage to be the first mover.
Netflix is a good example of this.
There's another area in which a first mover has an edge.
And what would that be?
Anything that involves creativity. Take music or art, for example. Whoever develops a new style, and if this style is successful, it's a first mover who becomes famous. Impressionism became successful through Monet and Cubism through Picasso. People know these names, but many artists who tried to copy them remained unknown. Everyone else struggled and ended up behind. The only chance for a second mover is to renew the style and give it a different twist.
Then they're first movers.
Creativity always rewards the first mover.
Right, but what does that have to do with new technologies?
It also takes creativity to develop new technologies, but the first movers are doomed if they have to operate within a large economic structure. They may be creative, but economic factors such as costs prevent them from succeeding.
And then it's the copycats who hit the jackpot.
Creativity and financial success don't go well together.
Monet and Picasso weren't poor.
But they weren't anywhere near as rich as Mark Zuckerberg.
So what's the best advice? Is it better to be a first mover or a second mover?
The first mover gets the fun, while the second mover gets the financial success. So it just depends on what you want.
If you have any thoughts on this, please share them in the comments. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.